Welcome back to Trust Your Oats. In our last episode, we looked at the future of food, oat milk, the demand for transparency, and the promise of regenerative agriculture to turn farming into a climate solution. Today, I want to bring you back down to earth, literally, because one farming decision quietly determines almost everything else. Not the seed variety, not the fertilizer, but the order, the sequence, the rotation. Before we can grow a purity protocol oat, we have to know what grew in that field the year before, and the year before that. In our world, crop rotation is not just agronomy. It is a food safety system, the first line of defense in a gluten-free promise. So today, why farmers rotate, what the long-term science shows, and why hemp has become an interesting new partner for an oat farmer. This is Trust the Rotation. Let's start with the oldest idea in agriculture. Plant the same crop in the same soil year after year and three things happen, none of them good. The pests and diseases that love that crop settle in permanently. You have handed them a year-round address. The soil runs thin on the same nutrients, and the weeds that thrive in that crop's window get very comfortable. Rotate and you break the cycle. A pest that specializes in corn starves when soybeans show up. Here's the part that surprises people. American agriculture had diverse rotations for most of the 20th century, and then we walked away from them. According to the United States Department of Agriculture's National Agricultural Statistics Service, U.S. oat harvested acreage peaked at 45.5 million acres in 1921 and stayed in the 35 to 40 million acre range until 1955. Then it collapsed. Today it is under 3 million acres. Why? Because oats fed horses and mules, and tractors replaced horses and mules. The engine that pulled oats through the rotation disappeared, and much of the Midwest narrowed to corn, soybean, more herbicide, more fertilizer, more pest pressure. And for people like me, that created a specific problem. When the only small grain left in the rotation is wheat or barley, a gluten-free oat farmer has fewer clean places to plant. Do not take my word for this, because farmers are famously good at believing things that feel true. Take instead one of the best long-running experiments in American agronomy. Since 2001, researchers at Iowa State University have run a field experiment at the Marsden Farm in Boone County, Iowa, comparing three systems side by side on the same ground. The conventional 2-year corn and soybean rotation with standard fertilizer and herbicide, a 3-year rotation adding oat underseeded with red clover, and a 4-year rotation that adds a year of alfalfa. The longer rotations use far fewer purchased inputs. Over the 2006 to 2016 period, mineral nitrogen fertilizer use was 86% and 91% lower in the 3-year and 4-year systems. Herbicide use was 96 and 97% lower. Sit with that for a second. 96% less herbicide. And what did it cost in yield? Nothing. It gained. Corn yield averaged 4% higher and soybean yield 16% higher than in the 2-crop system. Weed control held. Soil erosion was about 50% lower, fossil energy use about 60% lower, and net returns to land and management did not differ significantly between systems. So a diverse rotation is not a sacrifice you make for the planet. Same or more food, a fraction of the chemistry, soil eroding half as fast. And notice which crop does the heavy lifting in Iowa. It is the oat. So what makes the oat such a good teammate? Start with timing. Oats are a cool season crop, in early, often midsummer, out of sync with the summer annual weeds and the pests that key on corn and soybeans. That offbeat rhythm is itself a disruption, and the early harvest leaves a long window at season's end to establish a cover crop or seed a perennial. Second, oats fight weeds for you. In the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program's cover crop guidance, oats are described as an excellent smother crop that outcompetes weeds. With residue that is allelopathic, it releases compounds that suppress the germination of many weed seeds after the oats come off. That is free weed control, produced by a plant instead of a sprayer. Third, oats scavenge nutrients. That same guidance notes that oats take up excess nitrogen along with smaller amounts of phosphorus and potassium, and that a late summer oat seeding can absorb as much as 77 pounds of nitrogen per acre in an 8 to 10 week window. Nitrogen captured in an oat plant is nitrogen that is not leaching into a stream. Fourth, oats are a disease break. Rotating to oats interrupts root diseases that build up under continuous cereals. Oats are generally less susceptible to the root rot complex than other small grains, and rotating away from susceptible hosts is the primary control for soil-borne diseases like take-all. Now connect that to the reason this show exists. For us, the rotation is not only agronomy, it is gluten. As we discussed in Trust the Seed, a legitimate purity protocol requires a documented field history free of gluten-containing crops for a minimum of 3, and sometimes 4, years before oats can be planted. Soil has memory. A dormant wheat seed can wait years for its moment. So every rotation decision answers 2 questions. Is this crop good for the soil? And will it leave a gluten problem behind for the oats that follow? A rotation full of wheat and barley might be fine agronomy. For us, it is disqualifying, which is exactly why the next crop matters. Which brings me to hemp. Let me be precise because the word carries baggage. Industrial hemp is cannabis sativa grown for fiber, grain, or seed oil. And under the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, the Farm Bill, hemp is defined as cannabis containing no more than 0.3% delta-9 THC on a dry weight basis. That law removed hemp from the Controlled Substances Act and made it an agricultural commodity again. For an oat grower, hemp is interesting for 2 reasons. First, it is not a cereal grain, it is a broadleaf. It contains no gluten, and it introduces 0 risk of wheat, barley, or rye ending up in the soil seed bank of a field we intend to plant to gluten-free oats. Where most small grain partners are disqualified by our own protocol, a non-gluten broadleaf cash crop lets us build a diverse rotation without compromising a clean field history. And a cool season cereal harvested in midsummer is a natural counterweight to a tall, warm season broadleaf. Second, hemp is a formidable weed competitor. It establishes at high density and closes canopy fast. In 4 years of organic hemp trials in southeastern Pennsylvania, the Rodale Institute reported that hemp suppressed foxtail and ragweed, and that weed densities in the hemp plots were much lower than in other soybean fields on the farm. Though in the first year, those differences were not statistically significant. Still, a crop that smothers weeds with its canopy needs less chemistry to do it, and that matters to anyone who takes a glyphosate-free pledge seriously. Now let me be honest, because honesty is the whole point of this program. The evidence base for hemp in rotation is much younger and thinner than the one for oats. The Marsden Farm data span more than 2 decades. Modern American hemp agronomy is barely a handful of seasons old, and Cornell University's hemp program still lists hemp's place in crop rotation as an active research question. So I am not going to repeat the confident online claims about hemp single-handedly rebuilding soil. What the research supports today is narrower. Hemp is a vigorous, competitive, non-gluten broadleaf that fits cleanly into a diverse rotation, and the early results are encouraging enough to take seriously. That is the honest version, the only one worth trusting. Because a rotation is a farmer's way of thinking in decades instead of seasons. Plant one crop over and over, and you are borrowing from the future to pay for this year. Rotate, and you are making small deposits, fewer pests, fewer chemicals, more organic matter, cleaner water, and a field history clean enough that a person with celiac disease can eat what comes off it without fear. The rotation is where sustainability and food safety turn out to be the exact same practice. Trusting the rotation means understanding that the most important thing about this year's crop might be last year's crop. It means knowing that long, diverse rotations have been shown to slash herbicide and fertilizer use by upwards of 90% while raising yields. It means recognizing the oat as a rotation workhorse, early harvested, weed smothering, nitrogen scavenging, a disease break. It means welcoming a new partner like hemp with genuine interest and appropriate skepticism. And it means remembering that for a purity protocol operation, the rotation is the foundation of the gluten-free promise, laid down years before a single oat seed goes into the ground. We do not farm one season at a time. We farm in sequences. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Trust Your Oats. In our next episode, we will pack our bags and travel, because gluten-free does not mean the same thing everywhere on Earth. Until then, stay healthy, stay curious, and as always, trust your oats.